This is the easier-to-read version of 1984 by George Orwell, retold and narrated by Sarah Simpson. Part 2, Chapter 2. On the train to the country, Winston worried about being stopped by the thought police. It wasn't illegal to go for a hike in the country, but it was considered strange behavior. They might stop him and check his papers. Then his name would be on a list of people to watch carefully. He didn't want that. Most of the people with him on the train were proles. They laughed and talked. He sat near a big family of proles who were going to the country to visit relatives and buy a little butter on the black market. Winston was amazed by how comfortable they were telling him about their plans. Weren't they afraid of the thought police hearing them and taking them away? Winston couldn't imagine telling anyone his plans, however innocent they were. There was always a chance that your words could get taken out of context and used against you. It was safer to be quiet. After getting off the train, Winston didn't have any problem finding the place the girl had told him about. It was out in the country, far away from all the telescreens. There could still be secret microphones hidden in the trees, so they would need to be quiet, but it was still much safer than in the city. As he walked down the dirt path, he enjoyed the feeling of the warm sun. The air smelled sweet and clean here, not dirty like in the city. Bluebell flowers grew by the side of the path, and he stopped to pick them. When he saw the girl, he would give her the flowers as a present. Winston heard footsteps on the path behind him. If he turned around to look and it wasn't the girl, it could make him look suspicious. He continued to pick flowers, his heart pounding. He felt a hand touch his shoulder. He looked up and was relieved. It was the girl. He started to speak, but she put her finger up to her lips. "Shh. Be quiet, just in case," she whispered. "Follow me." He followed her down the path until they came to a little clearing. It was hidden in the woods. No one would be able to find it unless they knew to look for it. "Okay, we're here," the girl said, her voice a normal volume. "I've been here lots of times, and it's safe. I found this place by accident when I was on a community hike. I like to come here." Winston was still holding the bluebell flowers, but he dropped them when she came close to him and looked into his eyes. "I didn't know what color your eyes were until now," he said with amazement. They were light brown with thick black eyelashes. "You're so young and beautiful," Winston continued. "I'm worried you won't be attracted to me now that you can see me in the bright daylight. I'm older than you. I'm 39. I have varicose veins on my legs. I have 5 false teeth. I have a wife. I haven't seen her in 10 years, but I am married." "I don't care about any of that," she said. She put her arms around his neck and they were kissing. Winston felt her warm, young body against his, and he couldn't believe someone like her was interested in someone like him. He pulled her down to lie on the ground. She was aroused, he could tell. He could do anything he wanted. However, he couldn't get an erection. He was too nervous. He barely knew her. She sat up and smiled. "Don't worry about it," she said. "We have all afternoon. We don't have to have sex right now. We can talk for a while." "What's your name?" Winston asked. "Julia," she said. "I know your name already. You're Winston Smith." "How do you know my name?" he asked. "I'm better at finding things out than you are," she said. "I'm curious. Before I gave you the note, what did you think of me?" "I hated you," Winston answered truthfully. "I thought you were cold and stuck up like all the other women in the party." Julia laughed. "Good. That means nobody suspects how I really feel," she said. "How do you really feel?" Winston asked. "The party's bullshit, especially the inner party. The Junior Anti-Sex League is ridiculous. Telling women they're supposed to hate sex is just the way the party keeps control over us. We have to wear these stupid red scarves around our waists. I can't believe so many women actually believe that shit." "I thought you were a spy for the thought police," Winston said. Julia laughed again. "I'd never want to help those assholes," she said. "I make sure I keep my real thoughts to myself, though. I don't want to disappear in the middle of the night. I go to the rallies and scream during the 2 minutes hate. I act like a good party member. It keeps the thought police from suspecting anything." Winston was surprised by both her ideas and her language. People in the party rarely used profanity, but Julia swore constantly. Coarse language, as the party called it, was supposed to be unattractive, but he liked it. It felt rebellious and free. "I brought chocolate," she said, pulling a wrapped bar out of her overalls. Party chocolate was bland, crumbly, and smelled bad. This chocolate was different. It smelled sweet and rich, the way chocolate used to smell when he was very young, before the wars and Big Brother. He put a piece of chocolate into his mouth. It was creamy and delicious. "Where did you get this?" Winston asked. "The black market, of course," Julia said, shrugging her shoulders. "I'm a lot older than you," Winston said. "What made you interested in me?" "I could tell that you didn't believe in all the stuff the party and Big Brother say," she said. "You'd be surprised how many people in the party feel the same way we do. They just hide it." As they walked around the woods and the clearing, Winston had a strange feeling that he knew this place and had been there before. In his mind, he could see what would come next after each turn. "There's a stream up there a little ways, isn't there?" Winston asked. "Yeah, just over there. How'd you know that?" she asked. Then he remembered where he had seen this place before. It was the place he dreamed about at night. "The Golden Country," Winston whispered. "What's the Golden Country?" Julia asked. "Nothing, just a place I see sometimes in my dreams," he said. Winston looked around him and took a deep breath of the fresh air. The sky was blue, and a light breeze touched his skin. He closed his eyes. A bird was singing. It was a beautiful, pure sound. Winston didn't want to think about the party or Big Brother, but he was so used to it he couldn't stop his mind from wondering if there was someone sitting in a building in Oceania listening to the singing bird at the same time he was, because there was a microphone hidden nearby. And then Julia was kissing him. Her lips were warm and soft, and her kisses were gentle. He put his hand on the soft curve of her waist. He pulled her closer. "I'm ready now," he whispered. They went back to the sunny spot in the clearing. Julia took off her clothes quickly and stood in front of him naked. He stared at her young, smooth body. She looked the way she had in his dream. "Have you ever done this before?" Winston asked. "Of course," Julia said, "hundreds of times. Well, maybe not hundreds, but 20 or 30. "Were they party members?" he asked. "Yes, always party members," she said. "But not members of the inner party. They're pigs. I'd never have sex with any of them." "Do you like sex?" he asked. "Not just with me, but in general." "Yes," she said. "I like the way it feels, regardless of who I'm doing it with." His heart beat faster. He didn't care how many times she'd had sex with other men. He wished it had been hundreds. The thought of her having sex with other men and enjoying it turned him on. Julia wasn't some cold, emotionless party woman. She wasn't like his wife, Catherine. She liked to feel pleasure, and she didn't care what Big Brother would say about it. But it was more than just that. Knowing that a woman like Julia existed, a woman who didn't believe in everything the party thought, a woman who enjoyed using her body, meant that maybe there were other people like her in the party. If there were other people like her, there was a chance the party could crumble and cease to exist. "The more men you've had sex with, the more I love you," he said, kissing her. "I hate purity. I hate goodness. I'm tired of living in a perfect, boring, miserable world. I want to live in a world where people are terrible, because at least they're acting like they're alive." "I'm terrible," she said. "I'm dirty and I'm bad, so you should like being with me." They fell down into the grass together. This time there were no problems with his erection. After they finished, they both fell asleep in the sun for half an hour. When Winston woke up, he took his time looking over Julia's entire body. He looked at Julia's face. She wasn't actually beautiful, but he liked her mouth. He liked her freckles. He liked her thick, dark hair. Seeing her naked and asleep made him feel protective of her. He realized he still didn't know much about her. He didn't know her last name or where she lived, but he loved her. He knew there was a time not that long ago when it would have been normal to look at a woman's naked body and feel desire. In the past, life was simpler. Now you couldn't just love someone. Along with love came feelings of fear and hate. Sex was no longer just sex. Sex was an act of rebellion against Big Brother and the party.